So I wanted to go over some of the design choices that we've been thinking on some of the navigational aspects of the application that we're going to be building throughout the semester. I'm not quite sure if I had shared this diagram with you last time around. Did I? I forget. Did I go over this? Right. So I iterated over this the same initial diagram, and I hashed it out a little further so that we can take a look at with a little more detail. But it's more or less what we have discussed in previous lectures. Is that there'll be some profile from where a user, depending on their role, might be using different parts of the application. Depending if they're an admin, they'll be able to navigate to an administration page. If they are a service provider or a customer, they might be able to modify their particular services or answer the FAQs and whatnot. We've been focusing most of our time, most of our effort in this part, in this area of the application, right? Which I would say is the most boring part of the application. But nevertheless, it allows us to talk about the design of the data model, allows us to make the user interfaces fairly simple, right? They don't necessarily have to look spectacular or pretty, since our audience is the system administrator, right? So system administrators don't need to be flashy, don't need to have wizards or any particular consideration. We expect them to be able to consume lots of data, and perhaps we assume them to be very knowledgeable of the actual data set that they're manipulating, right? Much more than an end user. Right? An end user, they have their own mental model. Hopefully the mental model that they have is the same real mental model of something but we can't guarantee that, right? Users, presumably we've trained them, they know the product, they know the domain objects, and I hope that's true in the course as we progress, as we implement this. So anyway, so I hashed this a little further, and this is the and this is the page flow, a little hashed out a little further. We have from the profile, right? They can log in, register, and obviously they can update their profile, their addresses, their emails, their first name, last name. But from there they can navigate either to the admin role, or if they are a service provider, they can navigate to a list of frequently asked questions and then edit each individual question, right? As they answer those questions, they're able to, as a service provider, look at all the questions, and all service providers would see the same questions, right? Everyone would see this, but there will be different answers for each question. Yes, right? So if they're a system administrator, they can navigate to the admin screen. So I like to spend some time in the admin screen because that is mostly where we are, right? This is mostly where we're going to be going for the next couple of weeks. Later on, and when we come back from the break, we're going to start looking at the home page, right, and look at the end user's point of view, right, what they're going to do. Over here, it allows me to be a little more structured on what asks you to do, the same for everybody. When we get to the home page and look at some of those interactions, it'll be more open-ended, right, and kind of let you do whatever you want. Right, I'll just give you very high-level requirements, and I'll let every team decide how is it that they want to do that. Right? But the system administrator gives me a chance to be much more restrictive, since it's more or less the same across the different teams. So let's spend some time here in the admin screen. So from the admin screen, you can edit a couple of things. You can choose to edit the administration. You can admin or manage the frequently asked questions. I think that's team 2. I don't remember. I think that's team 2. Being able to manipulate the frequently asked questions. So presumably there'll be a list of questions, and the system administrator should be able to, click on delete to remove a question, or maybe select the question and then go into an edit screen so they can change the title, change what the question is, right? Then say OK, and then they go back to the list of frequently asked questions. Yes? Or click on plus to add a new question, and then they would go to the edit screen where they can enter the new question. They say OK, and then they go back to the list of frequently asked questions. Yes? So most of everything that we're going to be focusing for the next couple of weeks is going to be just like that. There'll be some list representation, and then some edit screen, right? A list component and an edit component. Make sense? Right? If you go to the admin user, because I want to administer users, manage users, again, same thing. There'll be some list of all users, probably with some pagination, maybe with some filters that I can search, things like that, but nevertheless, a list of users, yes? And then I should be able to remove a user, or maybe create a user, or maybe I can edit a user. I can be able to select a user and then navigate to an edit screen where I can modify that user's profile. Yes? Or I can change their role. I can change a couple things in there. When I say OK, I go back to the list of users. Or if I want to create a new user, I can say plus, and then it takes me to the edit user. I can enter the information, then go back to the admin user. Make sense? Right? Same thing for the services. I think I'm going to, from here, there will be 2 arrows actually. One going to the admin services, and one going to the admin service categories. I don't like this navigation here, so I'm going to fix that. But let's look at the admin services. If I want admin services, here's where I can add a new service: photography, piano lessons, language lessons, Spanish, teaching Spanish, whatever. I can create new services. So again, I can look at the list of services, and then if I want to create a new service, I can select the service. I would navigate to an edit page. If I say OK, I go back to the list of service. Make sense? Right. So there are lots of these: a list component and an edit component. Everybody okay? Now, some of these objects are related to one another, right? For instance, a service might be related to many categories, right? Or a service might be related to many providers. Yes, so there might be some relationship between the two. So that's why if I select a service and I'm looking at a particular service, I should also be able to navigate to the categories for that particular service. Yes? I can see that photography is in weddings, right? And is in maybe, I don't know, web service, web design or something, some other category. Right? So I should be able to add or remove categories from that service. Make sense? Or if I'm looking at a particular service, I should be able to edit the questions for that particular service. Yes? Right, so if I'm looking at one service, I would see some set of questions. But if I have a different service, I would see a completely different set of questions. Make sense? Right? And if I select a particular question, I can edit that question, say OK, I go back. I can add new questions, right? And edit those questions and then go back. Make sense? So these questions are in the context of the particular servers that we're editing right now. That make sense? Same thing for if I'm editing a user. If I edit a user, I can select any number of users, a particular user. I can see that particular user. I can edit that particular user. But then I can also see all the answers that user answered to the frequently asked questions. If I select a different user, I would see different list of frequently asked answers. Yes? Right? And I can edit the answer. Maybe they answered something inappropriate in one of the questions, and I want to edit it. Right? I want to remove the answer. Or I want to tag it somehow, maybe. I don't know. But I should be able to modify it. Everybody okay? Okay, so we understand that certain things have no context. Like the admin, I can create any number of services regardless of what the context is. The service is the context. Same thing with the user. A user is a context. Same thing, when I edit a user, if I'm editing a user, I can see the services that that particular user provides. Yes? This particular user is a photographer, they bake cakes, they teach piano lessons, right? So they're very busy. Okay, so they provide lots of services, and I should be able to edit the services. Everybody okay? All right. So based on the fact that most of these screens, because we're an admin, right? These are not end users. This is an admin, right? Most of these screens are lists and forms. I've provided here some ideas of what those pages might look like. Oh, maybe not here. Oh, sorry. I will provide some prototypes of what those screens might look like. No, that's not it. A5. This is not ready, but just wanted to share with you. Oh no, the data model. Yeah, so here's some ideas of what those screens might look like. Right, the list screen might look something like this, right, where you have the headings at the top, maybe a tabular layout would be enough, right, maybe some table layout in which you have rows, you have some pagination at the bottom, you have be able to remove a particular record, be able to select a particular record for editing, maybe a search where it allows you to type here and then filter the results based on what you query there. Here might be some optional operations that will allow you to create new records or edit an existing record. More likely, the editing will happen in a separate form. That if you select a particular record, it would then show in a separate screen where you can, you have drop downs and date pickers and check boxes and radio buttons and whatnot that would allow you to manipulate and either update or maybe create a new record, depending on whether you're creating a new record or updating an existing record, or maybe filter, right? That you can type something here and then filter and search based on some of the filters that you have here, or maybe even remove the record from here, right? The record that you've selected, then you can delete it, or just cancel and go back to where you were. Yes? So again, these are some ideas of what these two screens might look like. They're very generic. They're not specific to any particular use case. Okay? And what I'll do, I'll give you the templates of this, so you don't have to bother with the styling and the CSS and any of that. I'll give you that. You will then manipulate it for your own purposes, for your own use cases, for your own... Make sense? All right. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's where we're going.